Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to talk to you about Lady Bird, the film directed and written by Greta Gerwig, starring Saoirse Ronan. This is a movie about a girl that lives in Sacramento, California, and it's a coming-of-age story about her growing up in her senior year of high school, trying to find a college that she wants to go to. She's trying to find a place that is culturally stable, like it's a much more cultural environment than she's used to. She believes that the area that she's in isn't really that interesting, and she wants to break out of it. Guys, I'm just going to be straight up. This is one of the best films I've ever seen, and it's one of the best coming-of-age films I've ever seen. What I find really interesting about coming-of-age movies is they tend to have two really big extremes. The one extreme is they're so pretentious. They can be so full of themselves and saying and holding up a candle or a spotlight onto what high school was in this whole grand scheme of things. They're like, this is what we were living through. We were living through the darkest of times, but also the brightest of times. Life was just holding us back, but pushing us forward. Life was just so crazy, but we were infinite. We were crazy and wild, and we were living the fullest extent of life. It's just so full of itself and can be so preachy with how amazing high school was and how our best years of our lives were growing up. Or you can have the movies that are kind of meaningless, and they show lights on the mundane or the meaningless moments and don't have a point to them, rather than saying, oh, it's just this little moment that happened, isn't it great? And we look at it and we say, why is it great? Why is this great? Tell us why this should be interesting. And what's great about the greatest coming-of-age stories, like The Breakfast Club, or more recently Sing Street or Lady Bird, is that they don't choose an extreme. They take the meaningful route of storytelling. There's a meaningful storytelling and meaningful themes presented. But the way the story is structured is it focuses on mundane activities, mundane moments, things that aren't huge, but what is behind them is huge. So, like, if you are going to the thrift store to buy clothes, for example, going to the store to buy clothes is not a big activity. It's why you go that is the reason, like, what is so impactful. And that is addressed in this film. And that's what Greta Gerwig does brilliantly with her writing, is she's able to focus on those little moments perfectly without calling too much attention to them. And because this is such a short film, you might say, oh, she doesn't spend too much time on those moments, so they must not be meaningful. Actually, the fact that she spends less time on them and doesn't tell you to focus on this moment too long is all the more impactful. There's a beautiful moment in editing with this film where Greta Gerwig, with her direction, she doesn't hold that spotlight on this moment for too long. It's very quick, and if you miss it, it's something you would miss, but she allows us in the next assortment of shots to take it in and to see how the characters are reacting, not just in the moment, but throughout the course of a few days and how the relationships are changed because of this. It's fantastic visual storytelling, but also it's fantastic writing. This is one of the best written films I've seen. But it's not just the events that take place and the things that were shown. It's the events that are happening in the world. This is an open world movie in the fact that things are occurring that affect not how the people do things, but how they are thinking. Because this movie takes place in 2002. 9/11 is still very much an impactful thing on a lot of Americans at this time. So a lot of people are worried about the state of the nation and are very cautious. And there's a kind of prejudice hidden behind some people that they don't share publicly, but you can feel it. Like, there's such a really well-rounded grasp of how the world really affects us. An event across the world doesn't affect us in like ordinarily won't affect us in being like, oh, we need to send all of our time to that. It actually affects us more in how we think rather than what we do. We usually just go run on, because big moments happen in this movie, and then people just kind of go on with their lives. And the cast in this film is amazing. Saoirse Ronan gives an amazing performance, but it's not a performance that says, look at me. It says, look at this character and understand what this character is going through. It's very honest to Greta Gerwig's writing. And the entire cast does that. I think someone who deserves an Academy Award nomination is Laurie Metcalf. Laurie Metcalf plays her mother in this film, and she is absolutely phenomenal. Every time I saw her, I just continuously felt as if I was watching my own mother, and like discussions we were having, because they were so honest with each other. They were never pulling attention away from each other. They were supporting each other in their performances. And that's how the entire cast is. This is one of the movies that it's the reason there should be an ensemble acting performance category for the Oscars. What I really love about Lady Bird, though, is it is a very story-driven, character-driven spectacle. It's not a spectacle with visual effects or how it's filmed. It's not that kind of a spectacle. And I think that is the kind of spectacle we think we need to see films in the theater for. Like, we need to see big visual effects movies just to enjoy going to the theater nowadays. No, we don't need to do that. We need to go to the theater to see movies with great stories, with great characters. Those are the films that we will remember, and that we will always remember having an amazing time in the theater for. You can have a great movie, with a great story and great spectacle, but if a movie doesn't have a great story but a lot of spectacle, you don't need to see it in theaters. You need to see films like this. That is what Lady Bird is reminding me, especially, and what reminds, hopefully, a lot of people who have forgotten what it's like to go to the theater, and forgotten the absolute magic that it can have. As a film, guys, this is a perfect movie. I can't see any flaws with it. It's a wonderful coming-of-age story. Check it out. I think when people think back to the great films of this year and this era of filmmaking, they will think back to Lady Bird. And I'm glad I saw it, and I hope to see it again. Leave a comment down below if you saw the movie, and let me know what you thought of the review. And as always, guys, take care, and please support this film.